On June the 3rd, this most famous of rivers will play host to the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Royal River Pageant. A 7-mile flotilla of 1,000 ships will sail down the Thames in one of the most spectacular events ever seen in London to mark Her Majesty's 60 years on the throne. Among them will be the Spirit of Chartwell, carrying the Queen. Her Majesty's safety during the 90-minute journey down the Thames, like every other participant's safety, is the responsibility of the Port of London Authority. Rehearsals for this event have been ongoing for many months, and today it's the turn of the Royals.
It should be quite a productive day. We need to rehearse this because we need to see our timings are correct. We need to make sure that the masters are up to speed. This is one of the very few times that they can actually practice the pageant route. So we can't underestimate the importance of what today's rehearsal will actually be.
This day has been chosen for the Royal Rehearsal as tidal conditions will be similar to those due on Sunday the 3rd of June, so everyone will be able to test their roles as accurately as possible. It's vital, for example, that in the event of someone falling ill on the Royal Barge, the RNLI and Port Health have practiced getting them off safely.
The Medivac trials were really being organised by the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, because if there was an incident on board that involved a member of the crew, staff or one of the minor passengers on board, then they'd probably try and evacuate that person as per any other vessel along the river. So they just want to make sure that they're happy with how the arrangements would be on the day and that it's done safely.
And what's the PLA's role in that?
Basically, we would want to be standing alongside on our command launch with the Maritime and Coast Guard's on-scene coordinator. So they'd be arranging the actual search and rescue or medical evacuations, and we'd need to make sure that it's a known safe vessel going into that area and we know their movement. So we'd be looking at why is it going there and informing the police, because this is a highly protected vessel. We need to make sure that we can tell the police, actually this is safe, let him get in and everything's fine.
As well as rehearsing a medical evacuation from Her Majesty the Queen's barge, the performance of the barge itself needs to be tested in various ways, overseen by the Port of London Authority.
We're at Cadogan Pier, which is in Chelsea in West London, and we're here today because this location is going to play a key part during the pageant, and we're here to do a number of trials. The key one really for us today is the Queen will use the barge from the Royal Yacht Britannia, which has been brought down for part of the pageant, and she's going to be transferred to this vessel from that royal barge. So today we're looking at really what's the best way we can achieve that during the pageant, what's going to be the safest for the Queen, and what's going to be the best in terms of putting on a show for the pageant. There's a couple of options which we're looking at. One is in terms of, do we board the Queen onto the pier and then load her in a normal way onto the Spirit of Chartwell, or do we actually bring the barge alongside and transfer the Queen that way? And we're really looking at what is going to be the safest, obviously, for the Queen, 85 years old, with a husband in his 90s, and we need to make sure that we're doing that in the safest way possible for them.
Are you going to do a thing that kind of flaps over like that? Like if you did almost like a top step that went chonk. And then...
Well, we've chosen today purely in terms of the tidal conditions to try and reflect those which are going to take place during the pageant. So it's important to get the tidal conditions right for that, and also there's going to be a structure on the vessel as part of the dressing up of this vessel during the QDJ. So we're testing that in terms of the additional height it adds to this vessel to make sure that we are comfortable with that the vessel can safely navigate through the bridges in central London. We've put a number of white poles, as you've probably seen on the vessel, and these replicate the actual structure which is going to be on board during the pageant. So they're flexible and they're soft, so we can actually undertake a trial. We can do it in a safe environment, and if the worst were to happen, we're only going to hit a bridge with a flexible pole, so it's not an issue. It gives us a realistic trial of what we're actually going to encounter on the day.
The Royal River Pageant route travels under 14 bridges. The lowest is Westminster. This was the one the royal barge had to clear to be safe, which she did, to an almost audible sigh of relief from the Port of London team as well as the designer.
It's the end of the day. We've completed the various different transfers of trying to put the Queen across from the Britannia barge onto the Spirit of Chartwell. A few things that we need to tidy up, but it's looking very positive. Spirit Chartwell's done a very safe passage downriver, and it's been a very good, productive rehearsal.
Essentially what we're trying to do in order to reduce the risks of the event is to make sure that every part of it we've exercised and rehearsed previously. And of course it's impractical to go and do the whole thing as a rehearsal. But what we've done is we've taken each of the various parts and exercised them on their own in many cases. We've put together bits and pieces where we can. And this was a particularly important part because we actually had the vessel, will be the Royal Barge in the day. We also had to get the police familiar. We had to make sure that the designers could see the problem of getting the ship sorted out to go under the bridges. So all of that came together today. So everyone has now got a clear mental picture of what they need to achieve on the day. 6 weeks ago I was getting a bit concerned because there's still a lot of changes. But we've now locked the plan down and the plan is coming together. And I think the best thing about it is, doesn't matter where you are, whether you're within the PLA, the public, taking part, everyone really wants this to happen. So it's all coming together very nicely.